So what's the deal with the M16A4? You know, what makes this thing special? A lot of you guys have been asking me that lately, and we're going to answer it in this video. But what's going on, guys, in the works? And yes, some more Battlefield 3, and it's been a while since I posted a video, a couple days. I posted that Crisis 3 video late Friday night, and beyond that, I just took the weekend off. It was going to be a pretty busy weekend for me. I was actually playing in a Magic event. Yeah, make fun of me, that's fine. You know, like I said, in one of my videos I talked about how I'm at that age where I don't really care, you know, if I do dorky things. That's just part of life. I just do what I enjoy. But I was busy with a Magic tournament, and then I also was also planning on watching the Super Bowl, so you know, Sunday was pretty much occupied with Super Bowl festivities that I didn't get around to making a video. But this one's going to be pretty good because we're going to be looking at a weapon a lot of you guys ask about, and this video is going to be a little bit different than your typical video. You're going to see a lot of PTFO play in this versus just, you know, your typical clips of just gobs and gobs of kills, because a lot of people, I don't know, when I do a weapon video, my main focus is just showing you the practical uses of it, and that's mostly killing people. I mean, when you're looking at a weapon, you want to see it killed. But I had an idea for this video. I was like, okay, I'm going to show this in the native practical, you know, usage when you're actually playing the objective. Now, that's not to say a lot of these videos I don't play the objective. That's not the case, but oftentimes I take like the kill highlights to kind of showcase what the weapon looks like when it's performing, you know, how it kind of works. But for this, I took a little bit more of a raw footage approach. I'm showing you guys me, you know, defending some objectives, capping some flags later on in the videos, and just some areas where it's just not really that good of a weapon, such as right there. And I run up the stairs. I still got the fast reload on this thing, but you know, I'm not able to reload fast enough to take down that NG with the MTAR. But we all know that the MTAR is just destruction. Up close, that thing is just going to destroy. But the M16A3, M16A4, what's the difference? Now, in one of my videos here recently, I was using the M16A3 for the first time in a long time, and I mentioned how a lot of my kills on my In The Works account, you know, my main account, have come from the M16A4, but they counted as the A3. Now, what's the difference between these two rifles? You know, that's a pretty common question. A lot of people see you know, they see, okay, A4 is a 3-round burst, M16A3 is fully auto. But obviously, both of them can go single fire. But beyond that, what's the big difference? Honestly, guys, not a ton. I mean, that's the #1 difference. The reload time's exactly the same. You know, bullet velocity, all that stuff, the main base stats are the same. Now, the recoil patterns are slightly different. But the unique thing about the A4, it gets a really, really big accuracy bonus. It has an aimed out sight accuracy of 0.1. And that's just naked, completely naked. You're looking at a weapon with 0.1 aim down sight accuracy versus the M16A3, which has 0.2. So that's a pretty sizable advantage over its counterpart, which means that the A4 is going to be absolutely deadly accurate. This and the G3 are actually technically the most accurate weapons in terms of bullet deviation. The bullets are going to go where you shoot them, far as the first shot, you know, multipliers and all that come into play. So the first shot's always going to be pretty accurate, and the first burst seems to be pretty accurate. But the one thing I noticed when using the M16A3 is the first 2 bullets tend to hit, but then that third bullet, for whatever reason, you know, the recoil comes into play and you miss it. Now, that's with it naked. I am personally running this with heavy barrel and foregrip. You know, we talked about this in a past video about how foregrip pretty much is canceled out by heavy barrel, and with a weapon like the M16A4, you actually end up getting a better weapon than the base weapon. You definitely don't want to run this with heavy barrel alone. I find the foregrip definitely is better because the recoil pattern on this weapon is strange. It's a little bit different than the A3. The A3 technically has a little bit more wild of a recoil, but it's easier to control than I find with the A4. So, I mean, that's just personal preference. I don't know. It's just in my field test with the weapons, I feel like a lot of times I'll run into a situation where with the A3 I could have gunned someone down easily, whereas with the A4 I have a little bit more difficulty trying to take that person out. So that is one thing to consider though when using this weapon. In the past, I used to run flash suppressor on it. I don't really know if that was such a good idea. I ran it for the longest time before I was like, okay, there's got to be another way to make this weapon more usable. And I find the foregrip heavy barrel combination, it keeps your accuracy, but it kind of tames the recoil, any sort of horizontal recoil, and overall you just get a much more accurate weapon. So that's my recommendation if you're trying to think of a class to use. I know it's pretty boring. I like to mix it up every once in a while, you know, but foregrip and heavy barrel, it just works, guys. I mean, it just tends to be the best on this weapon. Now, before we run out of time, I got to talk about one thing that I think everybody, including me for the longest time, tends to overlook with this weapon, and the reason why I actually enjoy using the M16A4 from time to time. Now granted, this is better in my eyes in a marksman type role. It's better if you're going to be at medium to long range versus the M16A3 is usually going to top it in close quarters just because you can go fully auto. The biggest advantage of this weapon that so many people overlook, we've already talked about while standing still aiming down sight, there is nothing that touches this weapon. Well, on the move, this weapon is actually the best assault rifle in terms of accuracy while aiming down sight. That's something I don't think a lot of people realize. You look at the L85 and you're like, oh, it's a bullpup, which means it's going to be a good weapon while strafing around and aiming down sights. Same with hip firing and stuff like that. But really, guys, the M16A4 is the most accurate assault rifle while aiming down sights and moving. And that's pretty big, because if you're like me, you tend to find yourself strafing around a lot. I try to avoid it. It's not the ideal setup to be in, but sometimes if you're getting shot at, it's either strafe or die. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're strafing around and missing a lot of shots, that's because your aim down sight accuracy actually goes down while doing that. And it's definitely something that a lot of people overlook. I mean, they look at the base stats, they tend to overlook that, okay, while moving around, I'm actually hurting my accuracy. And I tried to train myself not to do that. In most situations, I try to avoid that. But if you're getting shot at, obviously you're going to be moving. And that's where the M16A4 has a sizable advantage over all the other assault rifles, including the bullpup L85. The aim down sight accuracy on the A4 while strafing is actually 0.5, the best out of all the assault rifles. And that's a huge thing, guys. That means when you're moving around, this thing is going to be super accurate. It's going to maintain a lot of its aim down sight accuracy. And that's the naked base stats. When you put heavy barrel, when you put foregrip on it, that stuff does change a little bit. So try out the A4 if you want to try a more mobile marksman type system. Yes, it does have a learning curve because the recoil on it, in my eyes, is a little bit more difficult to control. But once you get it down, I think you can have pretty successful results. But if you missed any of my other videos, here's a chance to catch up, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.